When you are creating the life you want, when you're pursuing success, whatever that happens to mean to you, there will be things that are outside of your control. But there's one big make or break thing that is within your control, and that is whether or not you get in your own way, whether you undermine your own success. And the number one thing that makes us do that is fear. I teach public speaking and communications. I teach people how to do a thing that terrifies millions, despite being objectively very safe. So you can bet that I see this all the time. In my line of work, success is when I'm out of a job because you have gained the confidence to believe in yourself, to connect courageously with people, and to seek out opportunities to put yourself out there rather than holding yourself back. But before you can do that, you need to understand how fear works so you can outsmart it. So let's talk about that. First of all, quick reality check. When was the last time you said to yourself, this fear is totally irrational, and it just went away? Yeah, not gonna happen, because that isn't how fear works. Fear is a survival mechanism. It's more ancient and more primal than logic, and it gets itself into your brain before your rational mind even knows what's happening. So we can't talk ourselves out of fear. We can only train ourselves out of it. What we need to do is go deeper, really confront that fear, and teach ourselves on a deep level that we're safe. Fears are stories that you don't know you're telling yourself. They latch themselves deep, deep inside your psyche and start sending out these alarm signals. And sometimes it's hard to even know where they're coming from. It's kind of like if you're in a meeting and the noise starts going off. Maybe it's your phone buried deep inside your purse or some desktop notification, and you're frantically trying to figure out where it's coming from so that you can shut it off, but it's interfering with your ability to do anything else. Fear is a lot like that. You're about to give a presentation, for example, or you have something important to share in a meeting, and suddenly this alarm in your head starts blaring. Why is it happening? There's no logical reason for it to happen. But it's there, it's real, and it's affecting you in a real way. A couple of years ago, I went on a backpacking trip, and I brought this watch, which had an alarm so that every morning I could wake up, break camp, and get an early start. But after I got home, I was unpacking, and somehow this watch, with the alarm still activated, fell behind that couch and stayed there. So every single morning it would go off for a full minute, beep, 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 beep. And because I couldn't reach it behind the couch, I just left it there. I left it there for months, and it just kept going off every day, driving me bananas. Until finally, I pulled the couch out, I found the watch, I disabled the alarm, and it instantly improved my quality of life. That fear alarm is the same way. Ignoring it won't make it disappear. Actually, it's worse, because this watch will eventually run out of batteries, but your fear doesn't. It sticks around until you face it, you engage with it, you do something about it. Now that sounds pretty daunting, and it's definitely not instantaneous. It does take time and intentional effort, but it is very, very doable. The first step is to ask yourself, what's going on here? Why is this thing causing me to have a fear response? And one way that I really like to phrase that question is, what am I afraid is going to happen? And the answer to that initially might be pretty surface level. I get this one a lot. I say, what are you afraid is going to happen when you're giving this presentation? And people will say, well, I'm afraid I'll make a mistake. Okay, that's a pretty reasonable thing to be worried about. Mistakes happen all the time. I made a mistake last night. I was cooking soup and I forgot to add salt. But here's the thing. It was fine. I added salt at the end and the world moved on. Mistakes happen all the time and they are not catastrophic. So the possibility of a mistake on its own doesn't explain why you are filled with dread. The thing is, our go-to answers are superficial, but the real answers are not. So the next thing you need to ask yourself is, why making a mistake is scary? And your answer might be, well, if I make a mistake, I might look stupid in front of people I respect. But you don't stop here either. Keep drilling down. Why am I afraid of this? Why am I afraid of that? And the deeper you go, you might get into fears like, well, if I look stupid in front of people, then I won't be able to advance in my career. And if I don't advance in my career, I won't be able to look after my family. And if I'm not able to look after my family, then I might feel worthless. You know that you've completed this process when your answer throws you back in your seat and goes, oh, dang, or some other four-letter word. Because the real fears that hold us back reside way, way, way down at the emotional root of it all. I'm not going to lie, this process can feel really intense. So be kind to yourself and just make sure that you have supports in place for whatever you need. But the reward for this process is that once you pull that fear out from behind the couch, you can begin the process of deactivating it. One of the first things that will happen, probably, is that you'll realize that you've been putting absurdly high stakes on the whole thing. Because the story underneath it all is usually along the lines of, I'll lose everything, or nobody will love me, or both. And when you lay bare exactly how disproportionate that fear is to the risk you're actually taking, you can push back against that narrative playing in your head. You can say, yeah, cool story, and set it aside. And then you go and do the thing that you're afraid of, and nothing really bad happens. And then you do it again. And when you do that, you're teaching your brain that, in fact, this is very safe. That old story just wasn't true. So we can start writing a new one about how much connection and benefit you're getting out of this new experience that used to scare you. Your brain gets rid of that old story, phases it out, and starts believing the new one. So that's the process that we go through, questioning those stories and following them down the rabbit hole to see where they lead. And once that happens, you can train yourself to stop believing it. But before you can take this rational approach, you need to be aware of all the facts, including the uncomfortable ones and the ones that might be a little bit embarrassing. It's like something very small and innocent casting a huge shadow. You need to look at the thing itself, not the shadow, to understand what you're really dealing with. So until you're willing to look at your fears and see them for what they are, you're not going to overcome them. But once you do, you will be unstoppable. By the way, it is much easier to go through this process when you have someone to support you and hold you accountable. If you would like me to be that person, visit stagelight.ca and get in touch with me to explore the courses, workshops, and one-on-one coaching that can help get you there.